Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 3. Okay, this is the first match of the table that I did in my last video, which is Obama Last Great Day Feast. And I thought this was really interesting because it's coming up in Genesis 50, and this is where it's talking about Joseph having his father embalmed. And I had actually done a table with the words Obama and embalmed some time ago because I had done some videos on the fig trees and the green figs that are mentioned here in the Song of Solomon's. And what I had pointed out in those videos is that this word over here for green in the Greek is this word over here, which is the word olinthos, and this is the same word that's used in Revelation 6 for the untimely figs. And as you can see, it comes up here in verse 13 as well, and this is where it says, "And the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind." And so when you look at the word untimely, you see that it's the same word. It's the word olinthos in the Greek. And olinthos is a plural, and olinthos is a singular. And over here it says, "An unripe fig which grows during the winter, yet does not come to maturity, but falls off in the spring." Okay, so I was curious as to why the Egyptians embalm. So I put in here, why did the Egyptians embalm? And over here it says, why did the ancient Egyptians mummify their dead? The ancient Egyptians believed that when someone died, their soul left their body. The soul would then return and be reunited with the body after it was buried. However, the soul needed to be able to find and recognize the body in order to live forever. And so then I put in, why did the Israelites embalm? And so I pulled up this article over here. And it says, why did Joseph have his father embalmed, which is an Egyptian death cult ritual? The embalming of a corpse as practiced in the Egyptian death cult was quite a gruesome ritual. The purpose of this custom was to preserve the body for the eventual return of the soul. First the brain was removed and the emptied skull filled with spices. Then the entrails were removed and the resulting cavity thoroughly sterilized with alcohol, which was afterwards filled up with myrrh and other similar substances. Next, the whole body was placed in a nitric solution for several days. After that, the body was washed, wrapped, and sealed with a sturdy rubber paste. Now, Jewish law strictly forbids embalming and cremation. However, according to the belief system in ancient Egypt, physical preservation of the body was essential to ensure the survival of the soul in the underworld, which was ruled by the Egyptian god named Osiris. So you're probably wondering, why in the world would Joseph have his father subjected to such a heathen practice? Had Joseph actually fallen for the belief system of Egypt's death cult? The answer is no, and here's why. The scriptures tell us that Joseph assigned the physicians to do the embalming. Physicians in Egypt were not normally embalmers. Normally it was the priests of Osiris who were assigned to perform these death cult rites. Embalming in Egypt was a religious ritual, not a medical procedure. So it was always conducted by professional priests trained in the intricate and secretive religious rituals that accompanied the physical embalming procedures. So in order to separate the religion from the medical procedures, the scriptures go out of their way to point out that Joseph hired physicians to do the embalming. Now you may be wondering, why did Joseph even have Jacob's body embalmed in the first place? Why wasn't the corpse just buried, as was the custom of the Israelites? Again, the answer to that question is both simple and practical. Jacob's body had to be hauled over a long distance to comply with Jacob's demand that he be buried in the promised land. So if proper medical means weren't taken to preserve the body, Jacob's sons would have had a rotting corpse on their hands midway through their trip back to Canaan. This would not have been a pretty picture. Finally, look at the two time periods mentioned in verse 3. It says there was a 40-day period for embalming and one 70-day period for mourning. Are we talking about a total of 110 days? The answer is no, and the way this verse is rendered in many Bible translations can be misleading. What our Bibles should say is there was a 40-day period for embalming and one 30-day period for mourning for a total of 70 days. The reason is because the customary length of a mourning period for the Hebrews was 30 days. Okay, so this is saying it wasn't the normal procedure to embalm the Israelites, that this was only done because of this rare occasion where Jacob had requested that his body be buried in the Promised Land. And so his bones had to be carried, I believe it was for 40 years in the wilderness until they finally got to the Promised Land, which was actually in the Hebrew year 2327. This is something I've talked about before. The Gregorian year was 1434, and this was a Jubilee year. And this happened at the same time of Joshua's death. This was after 69 Jubilees. So this would be a type of the cutting off of the Messiah after 69 weeks. And this is talked about in Judges 1:1-8 and Joshua 24, that this was the time that Joseph's bones were buried. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. But getting back to the table, you see that you have Obama coming up over here. You have the word Pharaoh going through the O in Obama. You have the word last going straight up and down over here in the pink. Then you have great over here in the purple, and day over here in the bluish purple, and then feast is over here in the blue. And as you can see, this is coming up in Genesis 50 verses 2 through 11. And like I said, this is when Joseph, it says over here, and Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And so right over here where you have Obama, you see the words, bury thy father, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, go up and bury thy father according as he made thee swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father. With him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all the house of Joseph and his brethren, his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen, and went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and there they lamented with a very great and sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw, and that's where the matrix ends. But over here is where it talks about embalming. It says his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel, and 40 days were fulfilled for him. For so are fulfilled the days of embalming. And the Egyptians wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, if now we have found favor in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die in my grave, which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan. There shalt thou bury me now. Therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father, according as he made thee swear. Okay, so this table is about embalming. You see the word embalm comes up several times. And you also see the word Pharaoh comes up several times. You see it over here. You see it going through the O in Obama, and then again over here. Okay, so now I want to show you another table that I had done some time ago, and this is another one that I haven't shared yet. And this one reads, Return King Pharaoh, Obama, Egypt, Adam, War, Israel. And this comes up in Jeremiah 46. And as you can see, it has Israel over here, right on top of Egypt. You have the word war going right next to that in the yellow. You have Pharaoh. You have king over here. You have another Pharaoh over here. And then you have Obama coming up over here in the blue. And you have return here in the red. And then Adam is in the green. And like I said, this is coming up in Genesis 46. Where it says, Jehovah of hosts, the God of Israel, saith, Behold, I will punish Ammon of No, and Pharaoh in Egypt, with her gods and her kings, even Pharaoh and them that trust in him. And I will deliver them into the hand of those that seek their lives, and into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of his servants. And afterwards it shall be inhabited, as in the days of old, saith Jehovah. But fear not thou, O Jacob, my servant, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be quiet and at ease, and none shall make him afraid. And so you have Obama coming up over here where it says, Fear not thou, Jacob, my servant, neither be dismayed. O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Jacob shall return. And that's exactly where you have the word Obama going through that. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that it's in Romans 9:17. Where it talks about the rise of Pharaoh. It says, For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, Even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Okay, this is the same scripture, but I just like the way this one is shown over here. It says, I raised you up to demonstrate my power in you, that my name might be proclaimed throughout the whole earth. And again, that's in Romans 9:17. And then in this table that I had done on Jehovah, Yahweh, tidal wave, holy war against Obama, this was coming up in Exodus 13 through Exodus 14 verse 3, and then the very next verse is Exodus 14:4, where it says, And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And that comes up in Exodus 14:4, and it's in Romans 9:17, where it talks about Pharaoh's heart being hardened. Okay, and as I said earlier, this is a parallel to Zechariah 14:4, when the Mount of Olives splits, but I can explain that in more detail in another video. But I also wanted to point out that it actually mentions the Feast of Tabernacles in Zechariah 14. So this is a very likely time for the Lord's return. I'm not sure if it's going to happen during the Feast of Tabernacles. We only have a couple of days until the last great day, but it's a very strong possibility. Of course, there are other possibilities. There's the Feast of Hanukkah, which originally was meant to be a second Tabernacles, and I also have a table on this. It's on the words Obama and blasphemy, and it's coming up in John 10, where it was during the Feast of Dedication, which is Hanukkah, that they accused Jesus of making himself God. Of course, Jesus is God, but this is where you have the name Obama coming up with the word blasphemy right in the middle of it. So this is another possibility. Like I said, I don't know the day or the hour. Could be any day now. Just know that it's going to happen very soon. So thanks for watching this video, and God bless you.